Good morning, everyone. Let's do some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Swaha Tatsavitra Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat Astoma Satgamya Tamsoma Jyotirgamya Mrityurma Mritam Gamya Om Sahna Vavatu Sahna Bhunaktu Sahviryam Karvavahi Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi Om Shanti 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 Om. Okay, Yog Darshan, Chapter 2, Sadhna Pad. And we looked at the verse number 24 last week, where Rishi Patanjali talks about the avidyas. And I gave you a detailed explanation of all the avidyas, the ignorance. And at the end, I said that process leading to self-realization is very simple. It becomes simple only when we surrender our mind to Ishwar. Normally, what do? We surrender our mind to ignorance. So this is what we have to change. So our messy mind, once we surrender it to Ishwar, it becomes a self-luminous mind. Okay? But we are always reluctant to do it. And how to overcome this reluctance and acquire a mind which is fit for unveiling our essential nature is the subject of the next sutra. So let's look at sutra number 25. Tad abhavat sanyog abhavah hanam tad drishye kavalyam. So tad means that abhavat means absence, non-existence. Sanyog abhavaha. Abhav, again, absence of union, complete absence of union. So Sanyog is complete and Abhav is absence. So together Sanyog Abhava is absence of union. Hanam, the state free from sorrow, nullification. Hanam. Tad means that, Drishe, the seeing power of the seer. Kavalyam, absolute state. So that is the state of consciousness free from all conditionings. So this verse number 25 says, from the absence of that, and what is that? Ignorance, avidya, because we are talking about that. So from the absence of that avidya comes the absence of mingling. And what is the mingling? Mingling of consciousness with our ordinary mind. And what is called? That is the freedom, the absolute state of the power of seeing. Tad drishye kavalyam. Actually, this sutra is a summary of the 5 preceding sutras. So if we have not understood the last 5 sutras, it's very hard to make sense of this. In sutra number 20, Rishi Patanjali tells us that the sheer power of seeing is the seer. Okay, that's why it's called a seer. And we are that seer. Okay, who sees, seer is who we are. So at our core, we are pure. Even though unbounded luminosity and joy are our intrinsic nature. We are unable to see ourselves, and we are not experiencing ourselves as that joy, that bliss, because we are heavily dependent on our mind. So it's like through the glass of the mind, the seer is seeing. And our mind is conditioned by its sanskars, the impressions. So we see only what our mind shows us and experience only what our mind allows us to experience. So at this stage in our evolution, our mind and our core being, who we are so intermingled. They appear neither similar nor dissimilar. And for all intents and purposes, they are one and the same. And our mental conditioning and the pain and sorrow arising from it are the pain and sorrow of our core being. So when mind is hurting, we say, I am hurting. Even though I can never get hurt. So as long as our mind and core being are intermingled, we have no access to our inner luminosity, or you can say to our intrinsic joy, bliss. So in order to accomplish life's purpose, we must distinguish one from the other. We got to learn how to separate them. Only then we can become established in our essential nature. This human birth gives us this opportunity, because only as human beings we can do this. We can recognize the truth pertaining to our essential nature and the world of our mental conditioning. We can see it separately. In Sutra 21 of this chapter, Rishi Patanjali tells us that the phenomenal world is meant for us. What we see outside is for us. There are several tools and means given to us to accomplish our goal of self-realization. So enough is provided to us. Our mind, especially the faculty of discernment, vivek, that is like a soul of the phenomenal world. It is the embodiment of intuitive wisdom. There is so much wealth contained in it. But when our faculty of discernment embraces avidya, the ignorance, it is instantly transformed into an ordinary mind. Its divine attributes, most importantly, the Aishwarya, our unrestricted capacity to discern, decide, and act, fades away. We cannot make the proper decisions. And this is why we are no longer able to comprehend life's purpose. That's what we see. Average person is lost. What is the purpose of life? Human life is. And why we fail to use the abundant resources which are hidden in our body. They are hidden in our mind and senses, and even the world around us. Our rishis called these senses also a devatas. Mind also a devata. So this is a great power given to us for this special purpose, but we have forgotten it. We have forgotten the power of the senses and the mind and the intellect. At the same time, we have forgotten what our real purpose of being here is. And in Sutra 23, Patanjali tells us that all we have to do to reclaim our self-luminous mind is unite the forces of our mind with the forces of inner divinity. But again in verse number 24, he reminds us that because of our attachment to our ignorance makes us reluctant to let go of our familiar self-identity. So constantly he is telling us what do we need to do and what are the obstacles. So avidya, the ignorance, that's why we are unable to change. So letting go of our old, frail, dull mind and replacing it with a new, vibrant and self-luminous mind, it has become a seemingly impossible task for us because of this ignorance. So here in this current sutra, sutra number 25, he is delineating the steps leading to recognizing the core being. The seeing power of the seer and releasing it from the tyranny of our avidya-driven mind. We are amazing creatures actually, as human beings. But our actions got to be purpose-driven. Normally, our purpose is, if we look at it, divided into two categories: avoidance of pain and acquisition of pleasure. Dukh nivriti, sukh prapti. No matter what we are doing, these are the two things we are looking for. And in the ultimate analysis, all experiences, including those that appear pleasant, are painful for a person who has a higher discrimination. We saw that in verse number 15. As long as our mind is contaminated by likes and dislikes, fear and doubt, we are bound to experience pain. And getting rid of this contaminated mind is the ultimate pain reliever. And we acquired a contaminated mind by embracing what? Ignorance, avidya. So as soon as we renounce avidya, mental contaminants evaporate. So in the absence of avidya, the inherent brilliance of our pure and discerning mind automatically comes to the front. And we can see exactly who we are. We also see the buddhi sattva, the pristine nature of our mind. The same mind that was once the source of bondage now becomes the source of freedom. This highly assertive clarity and comprehension arising from buddhi sattva is called vivek khyati. And in the light of the vivek khyati, we are able to see that we are the seer, the seeing power itself. And with the dawn of vivek khyati, the darkness of ignorance and our mental creations vanish. Vivek khyati, this is the light. So we are established in our essential self. Our worldly dependence on worldly objects and the experiences pertaining to them, they come to an end. Wherever we are, whatever we are doing, we are blissful. We don't run after the worldly objects. So this is Kaivalya, the experience of, it's called in Sanskrit Chitti Shakti, the power of pure consciousness, which presides over the primordial Prakriti. Or you can say it's a highly assertive clarity and comprehension of our pure consciousness. And how do we get this? Through practice and contemplation, yoga sadhana. But Patanjali is fully aware that in most cases, this state of realization does not last long. So even very serious practitioners, they have a glimpse of it, but it disappears very soon also. And that practitioner vaguely remembers how it feels to be in that state, does not know how to capture it again. And why do we fall into this experience like having a glimpse, falling it back, having a glimpse, falling it back, before becoming fully established in it? That is the subject of the next sutra. Because we should not, if we had a glimpse of this state and then we fall, we should not get discouraged. We have to just have a faith in it, faith in ourselves, and keep on practicing. So in verse number 26, he say, Vivek khyati avipalpaha hana upaya. Vivek khyati, the dawning of discrimination, the rise of the pure consciousness. Vivek khyati. Avipalvaha. That really means unshakable. Something which cannot be washed away. Or that which cannot succumb to chaos. Avipalpa. Han means nullification, avoidance. Upay means. So that really means the means of nullifying sorrow. Hana upaya. So unshakable, discerning knowledge is the means of nullifying the misery resulting from avidya-driven union of Purusha and Prakriti. So in other words, Vivek Khyati is the means. Okay? So as we saw in Sutra number 4 of this chapter, we saw the afflictions. He said afflictions, they exist in 4 states. They could be dormant, they could be attenuated, they could be disjointed, or they could be fully active. The Sanskrit words for these were prasupta tanu vichin udara, afflictions. And if you remember how many afflictions are there? 5. See, we should never forget what we learned before, otherwise these verses won't make any sense at all. 5 afflictions. Avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. Ignorance, a false sense of self-identity, attachment, aversion, fear of death. These are the 5 afflictions. And they could be fully active the mind is dragged into a state of disturbance, distraction, confusion, stupefaction. We lose the peaceful condition of our mind, and we have a difficulty even focusing sometimes. But with the practice of meditation, which was described in the first chapter, Sadhna Pad, we minimize the effects of the afflictions and we calm our mind, or we calm our mind's churning tendencies. So even though the initial stage of meditation does not destroy the subtle causes of disturbance, but if we stick with that practice, eventually mind becomes in our control. So the inherent property of the object of meditation, coupled with the power of our intention, creates an illuminating and peaceful meditative atmosphere. It's not just only our inner atmosphere, but effect of that peacefulness is no matter where we go, where we are. As long as the mind stays in this atmosphere, it is free from disturbing, distracting tendencies and also their subtle causes. That means the afflictions. But as soon as the meditative atmosphere fades, the mind is once again in the grip of the churning tendencies. So that's why the passive meditation ultimately should be practiced active meditation. So passive meditation is you're sitting down and meditating. Active meditation is no matter what you are doing, you never forget who you are. Active. You're walking, talking, cooking, cleaning, whatever you're doing, you never forget who you are. Every time we meditate, the mind is charged with illuminating, peaceful energy. It's almost like if we keep our phones and the computers plugged in, they're constantly being charged. The same thing happens with this mind also. And its ability to stay in that state increases. So first there is a glimpse of it, but then there is a constant awareness of it. A meditative atmosphere leaves no room for the disturbing, stupefying, and distracting tendencies which are a product of our deep-rooted sanskars of afflictions. In this chapter, verse number 4, in the beginning, we saw the definition of this kind of a mind, which is called vichin. Vichin. Sometimes these afflictions are there, sometimes they are not. As long as afflicting tendencies do not become active, our mind is clear and assertive. And it is illuminated by intuitive wisdom and able to see the seer reflecting on its pure and pristine screen. So that means that mind has regained its buddhi sattva. Buddhi sattva is again intrinsic power of discernment. That's called buddhi sattva. And that person, that practitioner is confident that its understanding both of the pure being and of the objective world is correct. So this person knows who I am and what this Maya is and what to do with this Maya. Am I supposed to drown in it or swim in it? This person knows. But when the tsunami of mental tendencies originating from the vast field of afflictions sweeps away that illuminating and peaceful atmosphere of our meditations, the mind is once again awash in unsettling thoughts. And that is the time we have to remember I got to come out of it. I need to get established in my essential nature. And that can happen only through steady practice and a constant awareness of life's purpose. We should never forget our ultimate purpose. We should not get disheartened when mind gets disturbed. We need to get out of it soon enough. So occasional glimpse of our true self is not enough for a serious practitioner. It is only when our deeply rooted sanskars, which are fed by avidya, they become tanu. And eventually, when they become parsupt and completely nullified, that we can reach the state of Kaivalya. So it's almost like if there is a crab grass in my yard, it's not just a clipping the outgrowth. Need to take out the deep roots of that crab grass. The nodules also, which are just buried inside, they need to be pulled out also. Otherwise, it will come back again. I won't be able to grow what I want to grow. So the same thing happens for a sadhaka. Only then we can realize our absoluteness. So the primordial seed of avidya has to be burnt by vivek khyate. See, just like we burn the wood, or if there is a trash outside, we might end up burning it if there's no other way to let it go. So this avidya needs to be burnt with the help of vivek khyati, the illuminating power of discernment. And in the light of vivek khyati, we begin to see inner reality, ourselves, and the external world as they are. So this external world is not diminishing. It is there. But we see the clarity, the difference between these two. And at this point, the idea that the phenomenal world is meant for our fulfillment and freedom is no longer merely an intellectual hypothesis. We really see the world as a divine manifestation. We really see and feel also the intrinsic powers of Ishvara. That's where all those Vedic mantras and the Rig Veda, those rishis, they sang the glory of God in this nature. Whether the sun or the moon or the stars or the clouds or the earth, the rain, snow, trees, that is the intrinsic powers of God, Ishwar. The sattva, rajas, tamas. In Sanskrit, they are called aghor, ghor, and Ghor ghor tar shakti. These are also Shaktis, these are powers. They are manifesting in everything and everyone. They are the Shaktis of not some other power, they are the Shaktis of Ishwar. This yogi can see it clearly. And if we do this kind of a practice, we will experience life as a gift. We'll feel grateful to the primordial Prakriti of Ishwar. Whether there's a sunshine, whether there's a tsunami, whether there's a snow fall, or even a blizzard. And who gave us this gift? Or how did we receive this gift? Or how do we get this gift if we haven't gotten it yet? Our self-effort pertaining to Yog Sadhana, which concludes with the Vivek Khyati, pure and pristine power of discernment. And this really brings us to the state of Videha and Prakriti Laya. These two states we have talked about. As long as we are alive, we live as Jivan Mukta with this kind of a clarity. We feel free here and now. That's a Jivan Mukta. And after death, we reside in Ishvara. An intrinsic Prakriti and state known as Savrup Pratishtha. We learned that word last time. And how do we know that we have gained Vivek Khyati? And that our mind is permanently lit by its self-luminous discerning power? How do we really know? How do we know whether we are progressing on this path? And that is the subject of the next sutra. Verse number 27. Tasya saptadha prant bhumi pragya. If you have studied Yoga Vashisht with me, you are very much familiar with this term. Prant bhumi, saptadha prant bhumi pragya. Tasya means he, the yogi who has attained Vivek Khyati. A yogi who has attained the power of discernment. He's not talking about a yogi who can do the Padmasana or the Shirshasana. Those are for the body. He's talking about a yogi who has a clarity, power of discernment. Saptadha. Sapt means seven. So Saptadha means sevenfold with seven distinct tiers or spheres. Prant Bhumi. Prant means the final frontier, the extreme limit. Prant. Bhumi means the ground. The furthest frontier of Vivek Khyati. The state beyond which there is no cognitive knowledge. It's like a knowledge par excellence. Pragya. Pragya is revealing knowledge, the light of knowledge without a shadow. Or you can say purely illuminating knowledge. So his discerning knowledge has seven spheres. And the furthest frontier is pragya. So, in the context of this sutra, it is important to recall the concept of samadhi, which was introduced by Rishi Patanjali in Sadhna Pad. Because if you don't remember what we learned earlier, this will not make any sense. In the first chapter, which was a Samadhi Pad, verse number 17, 18, and then 42 to 51. So make a note of it. Maybe this week, go through those sutras. Because he divided the range of samadhi into two main categories there. Sampargyat samadhi and asampargyat samadhi. For the sake of simplicity, we can translate sampargyat samadhi as lower samadhi. And in a lower samadhi, we are fully aware of the object of meditation, the process of meditation, and ourselves as meditators. That's why it's called a sampargyat. So that means a samadhi with cognition. And he further divided the sampargyat samadhi into four parts. Vitarak anugat, vichar anugat, anand anugat, and asmita anugat. I'm sure you remember it, just I'm going through it quickly so that you can just have more clarity. These four levels of cognitive samadhi describe the gradual deepening of our mental absorption. And this cognitive samadhi is also known as a sabij samadhi, samadhi with the seeds. Although we are free from the roaming tendencies of our mind has become extremely subtle, but virtually untraceable mental impressions still exist. That is the seeds. When these mental impressions vanish completely, we land in the state of consciousness as asampargyat samadhi. And asampargyat samadhi is loosely translated as higher samadhi. So remember, sampargyat lower, asampargyat higher. In higher samadhi, we have transcended the field of cognition pertaining to the object of meditation, process of meditation, and ourselves as meditator. Full absorption. It is a supracognitive state in which we feel free. Not only from the roaming tendencies of our mind, but also from the virtually untraceable mental impressions. They have vanished, those sanskars. This is why this state of samadhi is also known as nirbij samadhi. Samadhi without seeds. And in sutras 47 to 50 of that chapter, we saw a description which is like a mysterious transitional state between these two states of samadhi. And that is described as a pragya. And you can go back to the verse number 48 of that chapter. Please revisit. The self-luminous field of consciousness filled with truth. Pragya. This is the highest yogic achievement. Culmination of human endeavor. Over here, the samadhi as a process comes to an end. The experience gained in the state of pragya nullifies the effects of the samadhi, the sanskars, without creating sanskars of its own. And those sanskars could be, I am a better meditator or a higher yogi. No more sanskars. It is the purest and the highest state of inner illumination. Pragya is intrinsic to Ishwar's Prakriti. And when we are established in this state, we are established in Ishwar's Prakriti. Our mind is no longer our mind. It's Ishwar's mind. Our soul is no longer our soul. We have come to an unshakable realization that our individuated consciousness is just extension of Ishwar. We don't have to say it. We know it. Our inherent joy is essentially the joy of Ishwar. And the notion of I and my has dissolved. What lies beyond this point is not in the realm of mental comprehension. The state beyond this point does not lie in the domain of human endeavor. We reach this indescribable, unfathomable state only through divine grace, not by our effort. Divine grace. We really see ourselves through the eyes of Ishwar. And our experience ourselves through the heart of Ishwar. So Patanjali divides the range of samadhi into two parts in that chapter 1. Here he divides the range of pragya into two parts, like two main levels, you can say. This division is based on how brilliantly pragya is illuminating the mind. The illuminative quality of the first level frees us from the operations of the mind. And this is also known in the scriptures as karya vimukti, freedom from mental operations. And the illuminative quality of the second level frees us from mind itself, chit vimukti. And the first level indicates that the veil of ignorance is becoming thinner and the light of the inner being is becoming brighter. And the second level indicates that the veil of ignorance has vanished and the entire field of our mind is fully illumined by the light of inner being. There's a lot more to understand these saptabhumis, and according to Rishi Vashisht also, will go through those 7 stages also, and I'll go through this Karya Vimukti and Chit Vimukti a little bit more in detail next week. So thank you very much. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much for joining.